right.
Cool.
All right. Hello, Metal Maniacs. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers.
Cheers, all
Um,
right back at you.
cheers. Cheers.
What they say in
Uh,
Poland, Nostrovia, Nostrovia.
Nostrovia. Oh, very good. I am absolutely beside myself with excitement tonight. I am chatting with the one and only, the indelible, the indomitable Mr. Katon W. Pena, of course, of the mighty Hirax. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
Great, and it's good to talk to you and be here and be alive. And metal keeps it's just still rising, man. Everything's good on this end.
Nice, nice, awesome. Well, so first off, first and foremost, I have to congratulate you. You have a brand new album coming out this year. And I believe I know the demo was Faster Than Death.
Yeah,
Is the album's Faster Than Death as
yeah.
well,
The
right?
album's called Faster Than Death too. We did the demo and we were like, we might as well release it because we're underground and we're old school. And what was great about that is that people helped out with it. So we had a guy in Germany who put it out on cassette tape. That's originally how it started,
Oh,
just
nice.
like the early '80s, you know. So it was like bitching, put out this cassette, did really well with it, and then we had some guys, two guys got involved, one in Japan and one in Germany, and they wanted to do a CD version of it, so they released that, and that spread the word. And we kind of wanted, yeah, dude,
Got the
you have
Japanese
that
version.
badass with the OBI strip. That's
Yeah.
great. And so that really started the ball rolling. But we always intended for the record to be called Faster Than Death. And so fast forward, we finally recorded it, and then we started throwing concepts around because I already had plenty of ideas for this. But I obviously am an old '80s movies guy, so things like Blade Runner and Road Warrior, all those type of things,
Nice.
Escape from New York City, all that kind of stuff, kind of was factored into the cover and stuff. And there's another old movie called Death Wish, which has got a badass car in it. And to
Yeah.
me, if it's going to be faster than death, it's got to be a car.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the concept of the cover. And so now with this tour coming up, we start Europe in August. On August 1st, we start in Dusseldorf, Germany. Us and Exodus are going to be playing there. That's the first date of the tour.
Sweet.
And we needed something to be out in time for the tour. So this label in the Czech Republic, we're like, we'd love to do what do you guys got or want to do? And I'm like, well, to make it quick enough, maybe we should do an EP or a 7-inch EP or 12-inch EP. And they're like, we could do something really cool. And they were fans, not just record label guys. They weren't like your typical record label guys. They were fans of the stuff. So it was like they came up with an idea for a gatefold 7-inch, and it's going to be all high gloss with a poster in it and just all this cool shit. And I'm like, how do you turn that down? And to have it ready for the tour, because it's only like a month and something away, like it's almost 2 months, but a little bit under 2 months before we start this tour. So they're right now scrambling in the Czech Republic and to get this record pressed in time. But it's going to be two different colors, red and yellow vinyl. Only 500 copies for this tour, and then probably a couple months after that, the full length album will come out. But the
Nice.
cool thing about the 7-inch is it's got the original Bill Matoyer mixes, so the fans get something special. They're going to get those mixes that are only available on that 7-inch, and then there's going to be a totally different mix of the album for when it comes out regularly on all formats, which will be cassette, CD, and vinyl. And we just want to make these things special. It's important to us because like over the decades of doing this, we've always done vinyl.
Yeah.
And back in the '80s, we did cassettes, but now we can do them again, which is great. And CDs are still a format, as well as live, streaming online and all that stuff. But we want to keep it real. It's going to have the lyric sheet in there and all little goodies that we can, put into the package and just give something special back. Plus, it's been 10 years since the last album, so this thing has to be done right.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, God, it's been a while since the
Yeah,
last
10 years.
album.
And the thing that's crazy, those things go by fast. I mean, think about it. 4 of it was pandemic. So
Yeah.
that's almost like being put on mute. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like 4 years of people just trying to figure out if they're going to have a regular world again. and then the other 6 years, we were touring a lot. Like, when we get these records out, we usually tour for quite a while. But I hope that there's not such a long break in between the next records because we really want to keep putting out consistent music. But this record's a good startup, like to start again after 10 years with a new vinyl, new record. This is the record that we needed to do. It's 9 songs, and they're sledgehammers, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the demos, I I mean, I didn't know what to expect. You never know what to expect with demos, but I adore this album. It
Well,
is,
what's really cool too is that we did that, and it was like the rehearsals leading up to going in the studio. We were trying to make sure that we did a lot of pre-production so we wouldn't waste time in the studio because once you get in there, the clock's ticking and every minute is money.
yeah.
And not that we're rich or nothing or poor, but we just want to make sure we manage things right. So that those demos are from those rehearsals of just going over, and it's great because that was the band in its rawest form. But I still like to hear that kind of stuff too because it's kind of cool when you get to hear those, and then when you hear the record, you get to see that like how it progressed and how it became. It's what it becomes like a new beast. Because seriously, those recordings are great, but these songs really were captured right and they're explosive. Like that's the thing I'm most proud about with this record. The songs are just explosive. So especially if you've got a good, powerful sound system, you're gonna be ripping some faces off with this record.
Nice. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna piss my neighbors off. It's gonna be great.
That's definitely the goal.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, because I mean these demos are phenomenal. Yeah, I'm really excited for the new album. And you re-recorded a song from the first album
Yeah,
from
we did.
Raging Violence.
Yeah, from Raging Violence, we did Warlord's Command, and it actually fits. Even though it's from a earlier period of the band, it fits into these recordings nicely.
Nice.
So I just, like I said, for me, it's more about when we finally get this record out because it's like interviews and stuff like that are great, but a lot of bands hype their shit, and I mean that's never really been my thing. Like I get it, you have to promote your records, but I seriously think it's up to the fans. Once that record gets out there, you got to let them decide if it kicks ass or not. So I'm waiting to get these out so I can see the response. But I really believe that this record's going to be something phenomenal, especially if you're into that kind of music. Like it's totally what we should be doing. Like I think the fans are going to be like, they didn't fucking let us down.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's the thing I think with every Hirax album for me, it's always been. I mean, you're always on point. It seems like you've always put a lot of thought into a lot of consideration into what you're putting out there. Not that other bands don't necessarily, but I think you've always been, in my, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it just seems like you've always been very thoughtful in how you approach music.
Yeah, I try to be, and I think also I remember I'm a fan, just like the way you are with your stuff behind you in your room that you're in right now. I'm the same if you look behind me, and it's like I'm a fan, but I also want to remember that when I'm doing my own records. Like the fans are the most important part of it. Like you buy or die, you know what I mean? Like
right.
And especially the hardcore guys that have been with you for decades, or even if they've been with you 5 to 10 years and they're supporting your music. I mean, you always should think about that. I think what happens with a lot of bands, they start to forget about that because they worry more about the business. They worry about the record labels. I mean, what's great with us, we always get offers, and there's always labels still trying to sign us, but we still do it for ourselves. Like the music's always about us and the fans, and we never forget that. And I think that's a good thing to do. Kind of you're almost forcing yourself to stay on top of yourself. Like you can't bullshit. You can't just phone it in. And also it helps not to just rush records. Like even though I wish we had more records out, I'm glad we've never really rushed because that's normally when you put out really bad shit.
Yeah.
And the fans don't deserve that. Like to me, when you're buying records, you're also investing in your own collection.
Yeah.
Why would you want any crap in your collection? Like if you notice most people, what they do, even if they have a couple of crappy records, sooner or later they just get rid of them.
Right.
Like I'm going to trade this in and get something better. So I think the bands should really think about that. And you got to think about integrity too. Like for us, we're a thrash metal band. The basics of what we are is a thrash metal band, even though you can call us a lot of things. But I don't want to do a record that doesn't sound like what we're known for.
Mm,
Some bands try to change, even though they have the same name, but they change their style so much, they basically screw themselves because they're trying to be something they're not. I think when people buy a Hirax record, they should get a Hirax record, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah, you know what you're getting when you buy a Hirax record. I think that's a good point because I think there's a lot of bands that, and I like the idea of experimentation, but if you alienate your fans,
Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna lose fans.
You can also do a side project if you really want to do all that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
your name has. I don't really want to get too much into this whole marketing and branding because that's so huge now. I mean, I get it, but your name has a certain thing with it, and that's kind of like what you expect. Like when I go to buy a, say, if you want a burger that you've got, you can order that same burger. So like when people buy a Hirax record, they're expecting that brand of music.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. And that's the thing. I've always had a lot of respect for you for your approach to music because you are, in my opinion, you are thrash metal, like for me, like more so than any other band.
Well,
um
thank you.
like truly, like I mean, and I love a lot of, and I don't want to badmouth anybody, but like you've always stayed true to Hirax, like the original sound of Hirax. You've always been very true to that, which I think is important, and perpetuated thrash metal even when it wasn't popular
Yeah.
necessarily, and
I
it
guess
was
that's where I'm a hard head, like,
yeah,
and that's okay. I mean, I think you either die by the sword or no, like for
right,
me, like I really do care about it, like even when I was starting out younger, I still have that same, like, I got into this for life. Like I didn't just get, like, I've had a lot of friends that got out of it, or
yeah,
they changed their lifestyle, which is fine too. But I really got into. I'm like, I'm gonna love this shit forever. I mean, obviously, I listen to a lot of different music
yeah,
because to me, it's like food. Like some days I'm in the mood for Zeppelin, some days I'm in the mood for Deep Purple, some days I'm in the mood for Thin Lizzy, UFO, whatever. But I'm
yeah,
just saying, to me, it's like food. And like with Hyrax, I just thought I'm getting into this. While I do it, I'm going to do it with the most integrity I can. I really, like I said, back to the fans, I think they deserve that. Like these people have been into it, like some of them have been into it for 40, 30 something years.
yeah,
That's integrity. Yeah. I mean, seriously, like when I go to shows, I feel like I'm amongst my people.
yeah,
I still feel that way. When we roll in, like even in the festivals, and we're driving through these areas just to get to the stage, and I see all the people outside the van or the mobile home that we're driving or the bus, I'm like, these are my people. I'm so happy to be there. So it's just, I think what it is we all have that in common. Like we got into this. It's like when you see another heavy metal dude wearing a shirt and you're
yeah,
like, dude, what's up? You do that what's up thing.
yeah,
That's the way I feel about this whole thing. It's like I know that they're my people, you
yeah.
know?
It's almost tribal in
It
a
is.
yeah,
I would say it totally is. I mean,
yeah,
to me, it's like almost the most beautiful thing about metal shows. Like you go and you see other tribes, but you're all one tribe once you get there together. But
yeah,
they're all rolling in, and it's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. Not too many people really look at it that way, but they should. It's very tribal.
yeah. And I think, uh, sorry, I know I don't mean to gush, but I think you are the one of those people that more so than most metal music, you bridge the gap with a lot of people because you're so passionate about it. Like it's contagious. But I think also like you look at I'm gonna go back in the past a little bit here.
Yeah,
Thrash and Destruction live album,
yeah,
Germany.
yeah, yeah.
And two and it's on the recording. Two fans get into a fight that are in the pit. I don't know if you remember this.
I
Two fans,
totally.
yeah, get into a fight, and you don't throw them out of the venue. You make them shake hands and make up
Yeah.
because we're a tribe. Like you're like, we're all together. Like, what are you guys doing? Why are you fighting? Like, we're
Yeah.
together in this.
And I was also surprised because Europe, you don't really see that shit over there. Like there's not
Yeah.
shows. I mean, I'm not trying to down bad talk America or the U.S., but there's more of that kind of stuff at shows in America. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's
In
true.
Europe, you don't see it very often. If you see it, it's maybe because somebody knocked over somebody's beer, or a case of beer, like because that's what it would take. Over there, they'll go, I'll just buy you another beer. But you don't really see violence at the shows in Europe. So I was really surprised. And also, it was a festival that's really like about all that, you know. But I would always do that no matter what setting we're in, just because I really do think it's ridiculous. Like you're fighting another metalhead, which is
Yeah,
already stupid.
yeah,
And it's music. How bad can it be to where you're gonna fight at a show, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, it was probably 2016 or something like that. And it was a while back. And I'll never forget it because I remember seeing it going on. And I was like, this is happening in Germany. Germany is like, you could pass out at a show in Germany and people will step over you and leave you alone. That's how awesome it is. Like, I love touring through Europe, especially Germany, because it was one of the first countries we played in where I would see people passed out and people leave them alone and just let them sleep it off, unless they were in distress. But
Right.
you see that over there normally at festivals. Guys are just passed out up against fences and people just let them sit, and then you'll see them up later on like they slept it off, you know. So yeah, I mean, I just really think at those shows it should be all about unity and everybody coming together. And I've always been that way. I mean, since the '80s until now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things I love about you. And I thought that was so cool. And I thought it was cool that you left that on the record. That's on the record. I mean, that's,
Well,
like,
you know, I think too is like, dude, when you travel, like you said, this tribal thing. I've been lucky and honored to be able to break bread with, you name it, Russians, uh, Norwegians, Swedes, Finns, Japanese people. I mean, it's just amazing that I get to sit down and have a beer with somebody from Finland, and then they're teaching me cuss words in Finnish and how to say cheers. Like I try to learn cheers in every language, and in Finland it's keppis
yeah,
or kippies. Yeah, it's kippies. And but it's just really cool to sit down. I think that's probably the biggest problem we have with the world is that people don't get to sit down with other cultures and get to know each other. I think it educates both sides. Like, you know, hanging out with guys from Mayhem or Dark Throne, you know, it doesn't get much better than that I'm able to do that. So I'm pretty grateful to have these opportunities to travel around the world and sit in Japan and, you know, talk to Sabbath and bands like that. It's just crazy.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love, yeah, like I said, I mean, yeah, I think you bridge gaps. It's interesting. I was talking to a young metalhead. I could be his dad. He's in his 20s,
Yeah,
and I was wearing a Hirax t-shirt, and he's like, "Oh, I love Hirax." He's like, "Katon Pena, like that guy, like he
that's
like
all.
bridges gaps. Like that guy, like he's like the metal guy. Like he is it." I'm like, "I know, right? Like he is metal. Like when
And
I think metal, I think of you,
I
like
just love it.
immediately."
I love it. It's always been like it's like my sanctuary, you know. Like even we just played Chicago recently with Watchtower, and
Mm,
those guys were brilliant and great people. That even just we had to ride back to the airport in the same bus, and it was just great the whole way back. We talked about music, food, beer, you know, just shit like that, and you know, it's an honor. Like if I think if you look at it from the right perspective, no matter how big or whatever level your band's at, that you should be grateful for these opportunities. Like, I mean, besides playing music and meeting the coolest people on the planet, I get to go to places I probably would have never seen if I wasn't playing music, you know?
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because you do a lot of I know Hyrax is very very popular in Latin America. I know you do a lot of shows in Latin America.
Yeah, it's another world. Like they're even crazier. Like we everywhere we normally play is pretty crazy, but South America is by far, besides Mexico, South America is the craziest. Like Colombia, Chile, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay. I mean, Bolivia. We've been all over the place. I think there's only one. I think Uruguay. Uruguay might be the only place we haven't played yet. Um,
Wow.
but we'd love to because for us it's always about breaking ground. Like we were going to South America when a lot of bands wouldn't even go
Yeah.
because afraid of like the cartels and you know I get that stuff does exist, but there's also a great side to a lot of those countries that people don't know about because the news really only tells you about the bad stuff. They never tell you it's great to go to Colombia and have food, amazing, and sit with the people and take in the culture.
Yeah.
It would be great if they did that, but they always talk about the sad stuff that happens. But there's a lot of good in all those countries, and we've been fortunate enough to go down there and travel through places like jungles, man. Like it's unbelievable what we've seen. So yeah, I mean, I take it as a great honor. Like we've been able to build a really big fan base in South America and a lot of the Spanish speaking countries. Even when we go to Europe, Spain, we usually do like 4 shows just in Spain alone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's always trying to move on and do other stuff too. Like we just like for us now, some of the goals are to play like Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, stuff like that. It's just to take your music and your message to another world.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, I love that. I think that's amazing. Yeah, just like and like you said, I mean, it's such a these beautiful cultures that I think a lot of us don't. Yeah, we see the bad from the news, from the media, and yeah, again, like yeah, bridging the gap. Like you just
Yeah,
get in there
totally.
and yeah,
Why not? And it's
yeah.
like, especially when I've hung out with people that probably never even seen anybody like me. I mean, we were playing small villages in Germany, and I remember one day I had a day off, and I went out just to check out the little city. It was a village actually, and there was this old lady. She's probably in her 90s, and she walked up to me, and she couldn't speak English. She was totally speaking in German. But I figured out what she was trying. She wanted to touch my hair.
Oh wow.
She had never seen a black guy with an afro before. And I
Oh
was like,
really?
I let her touch my hair, and it was a nice little thing, and it was no big deal to me. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes you also need to go somewhere so people get a piece of you and then they realize you're a nice human. And
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I
I'll
love the fact that
never forget that. That was just this little German lady wanted to touch my
that is cool. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I was thinking about I love like, all the pictures you post on the Hirax page. And yeah, you'll see these photos like, particularly like in South America, and there's all these like young, really young guys like in their teens and 20s
hair.
now. I mean, we're talking now, but these pictures like I mean it transcends time, it's like that could have been taken in 1980 in,
Oh yeah.
1984 in LA. And
Yeah, without a doubt, man. It's
yeah,
crazy even to me. Like I feel like I'm in a time capsule going back in time.
yeah, that's cool.
Like I mean, so many stories are like we played this festival in Spain. They actually flew us in. It was to check this out. It was a heavy metal fan club in Spain where they saved up their money, got all their money together, and then they wanted us to play. So they took care of us and flew us into Spain just for this show to
Wow.
play in their own club. Like these guys were so rad. They organized a heavy metal club and then they got their own space, and that's where their heavy metal club is at. And they just put on a festival with us, flew us in, and we had a day or two to hang out with them. And dude, they took us to all the Spanish bars. Holy shit! Metal crank so loud your ears almost bleed, and they were, like, hoisting us up on top of the crowd, like just passing us around on top of people. It was crazy. So yeah, I mean, when you get those kind of opportunities and those experiences, it kind of makes you, well, it doesn't kind of, it makes you grow as a human.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Speaking of time capsule, I have to ask, and I know you're really busy with the new album and touring, but next year, 1980, 2025 will be the
Yeah.
40th anniversary of Raging Violence. Do you have any special plans to
Well, I think that's,
commemorate?
it's crazy because I get that. Like, I never really think about that, but a lot of bands will go, we're going to do a tour just of that record. And I get it. But for me, it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't know if I ever will, just because I think there's so much catalog. Like, I do
Yeah,
want to have special moments in the live show. There should be. Like,
yeah,
you got to pay tribute. I mean, that record set us up. I'll be real with you. Like, if it wasn't for Raging Violence, I don't even know where we'd be at now.
yeah,
You
yeah.
kind of have to also keep that in your mindset as you get older and you've been doing it for a while. Like that record opened up so many doors for us. It was ridiculous. Like people don't know this, but before that record, we recorded at the same time. Brian Slagle and there was another guy named Pusshead who's an artist. He did
Oh, yeah.
everybody. You know,
Yeah, Metallica and
Aerosmith, Metallica, Fishbone. He's done all these different bands. Like he's pretty across the maps. Obviously, the Misfits, and so, anyways, these two guys, Brian Slagle and Pusshead, came to a conclusion that we should do one of the songs off the record with this new label in England. And so the label was, they didn't even have a name. I mean, even the record, when you see it, it just has their address. It's a flexi disc. It was like the first record they did. But that was Earache Records. Earache Records, we were on their first record they ever did.
nice.
So Metal Blade actually licensed out that song. It was called Destruction and Terror. They put that out in England. And then following that closely was The Raging Violence, the full album came out. But those things were what set us up, because then we started getting, written up in Kerrang magazine. We were in the charts, we were like, we're in the charts. How does that even happen to a band like us? We were in heavy metal charts. And that just started, more and more stuff started happening from that point on. I mean, Metal Hammer, Rock Hard, all these. This is when these magazines were like in their infancy, like starting out. So yeah, the first record, we'll definitely do some tributes to that. I mean, I think what's kind of cool, and we didn't do this by design. I mean, that's probably the other cool thing about the band. But we didn't do it by design. But the new record has one of the tracks from the first album on it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's already pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really proud, dude. Like next year's 40 years of Raging Violence. And I'm sure on the live show we'll point that out, and there's going to be some special moments. I mean, Warlord's Command was a song that we hadn't played for probably almost 3 decades, and we brought that back and we re-recorded that. That's in the set. I mean, we're always going to have to do Bombs to Death. That's like our staple,
Yeah.
and that song to me is really important because that's the first song we wrote. So
Oh,
Bombs of Death is like, I almost feel like, I don't think there's, maybe once, but I don't think there's ever been a show we haven't played it.
nice.
So yeah, that record, yeah, man, it's almost like you're seeing your child grow up, to see that record where it's at, and it still holds up, and people still like, man, like we just had banners made, and I gotta actually add those when I get done with this interview to our website, because people, I didn't really think anything of it. I posted these new Raging Violence banners, and we got all these messages saying, I went to the site, I want to buy it now. I'm like, we got to put them up. We just got them yesterday. But so yeah, the record is very important. Like, I mean, the second record too, Hate, Fear, and Power, is another one that's going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
40 the following year, because that was done in '86. But Raging Violence paved the way. So yeah, that's always going to be something important. And I think you never should forget your roots. Like some
Yeah.
bands don't even play songs off their early albums. Like once they get to a certain level, you're lucky if they play maybe 1 or 2 songs off their early records. And we always try to play at least a few off of each record.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Speaking of the early days, I was curious if you would tell that I've never, I know that Tom Warrior designed the logo,
Yeah.
The Hirax logo.
Mhm.
Yeah, how did that come about? I'm really curious about that story, like how that all came to play.
It's a pretty awesome story. I mean, it goes back to the tape trading days. Like back, some kids now you talk about, they don't even know what the hell you're talking about. It's like
Right.
you might as well be speaking another language or alien. Like we're aliens when you talk about cassette tapes. But cassette tapes, kids, were these tapes that were a little square box with tape in it that played music on it. And so we were tape trading, and luckily for me, I was really in on it early because obviously we knew Metallica and we came out of the same area. And that was one of the biggest formats back in the '80s
Yeah.
and even the '70s. Like cassette tapes were really popular, and so was vinyl. That's all we had. We didn't have CDs yet. Obviously, we didn't have streaming. So I think maybe the other format might have been 8-track, and that
Yeah.
started to fade out too. But I was tape trading, and I became friends with Tom G. Warrior. They were called Hellhammer back then, and we started tape trading because I was checking out Hellhammer, man, and he sent me some tapes of the demos, and I'm like, this stuff's amazing, because I liked Venom and stuff like that in Bathory, but there was nothing like Hellhammer
Yeah.
at that. I still don't think there's anything like Hell. I mean, obviously you can make comparisons, but Hellhammer is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time. I just thought it was rad. That's the word we used in the '80s. This is rad. So he goes, well, send me some tapes of your band. I sent him, and he really liked them. Like he liked the demo tape. He got the first 4-track demo that we did before the album came out. But when he got the demo, he goes, I love the tape, I love the music, but I hate the logo. And I'm like, well, I just scribbled that. That was me. I was honest about it. I go, I did the original logo, which is basically like stick lettering. Because I don't consider myself an artist. I know good art, but I'm not an artist. So I go, well, that's what I did. And he goes, well, listen, is it all right if I design a logo and send it to you and you let me know what you think? And I'm like, sure. But this takes 2 weeks, keep in mind, both ways, because back then we were sending letters. Too expensive the phone call, even though some of us did call, but you didn't call too much or your phone bill would be a nightmare back in the days. But so we sent letters, took 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, this package shows up from Tom W. Warrior. I open it up and he goes, I designed this at the same time I designed my new band's logo. So that's what's great about it. When you look at the Celtic Frost logo and you look at the Hirax logo, Tom W. Warrior did both. Really look at them and you go, oh, they're very similar because they have the same points and all that. So yeah, he designed the Celtic Frost logo at the same time he designed the Hirax logo. And when I saw it, I'm like, this is great. And using it ever since 1984.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, you have to. It's Tom G. Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great that he was that helpful. Like he helped us out a lot in the beginning. A lot of people don't know this, but Tom actually promoted us in Europe. He had his own company. He had a production company called Prowling Death. There we go. Prowling Death Management. It's old school. You could probably find it online somewhere back in the day. Like there's flyers and stuff. But Prowling Death Management, Tom had to help promote his band and us. And he had another band called Messiah and Drifter. And he was promoting our stuff. And he loved the tape, but he wanted to change the logo, and he did. And from that point on, we started using Tom G. Warrior's logo, Hirax logo that he designed.
Nice. Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool. Oh, I love that.
Pretty good story, man. A piece of history for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's great. Speaking of history, I know at one point you were working on a book.
Yeah, you're gonna get my wife yelling across the room in a second here. Yeah, books are harder than I realized. I mean, I knew it would be hard. I knew that. But you really got to focus on them. And not that I can't do that, but also I want to play and I want to record albums.
Yeah.
But I should put time, like my wife tells me all the time, you should put 15 to 20 to a half hour at least a day where you write some stuff, save it and have it organized. And then before you know it, you will have a book. And what's great now, my memory has actually gotten in reverse better. Like when it comes to the old days, I'm remembering shit that I didn't even remember back then. Now it's almost like things I'm going, oh, we did that. I'll tell you a story. One time when we first met Cliff Burton, we went to I was actually by myself. I drove up to San Francisco, and I was still really good friends with James Hetfield. He goes, yeah, come on up. He goes, we're going to be practicing, but just come over to the house and, you can hang out. But when I got there, they were practicing in the garage, and they were so loud. Metallica was loud as shit back then. I don't even know how the neighbors put up with this shit. But anyways, I get there, and I'm knocking on the garage door, and they can't hear me.
Wow.
In a good way, it was good they couldn't hear me because I got to sit there through like the whole set. And this is when they were already starting to infuse some of the Ride the Lightning. They hadn't released Ride the Lightning yet, but they were playing some of those songs. So I remember sitting there going, that's a new one. I was just standing outside the garage waiting for them to hear me knock, but they played at least probably this full set.
Wow.
And then the garage door, finally they hear me banging on it. By that point, I'm bloody knuckled banging on the door. And they open up the door, and the first guy I see is Cliff Burton. And that was like a great way to meet him. He's like, what's up? And so we hung out, and we talked records and stuff. The thing that me and Cliff Burton really bonded on was we talked about Merciful Fate. He was way into him, and so was I. So we were can you imagine me and Cliff talking about Merciful Fate as young
that is like the coolest thing I've ever considered. That's really insane.
Awesome. Yeah, and then I was talking later, Kirk was hanging out, and he's a really nice guy. So he's like, you ever heard of the Bad Brains? I'm all, yeah. So we would, just guys shooting shit about music. And then later on that night, they're like, hey, well, we should meet. There's a place called The Stone in San Francisco where a lot of bands played. And they're like, tonight we're gonna go see Robin Trower, and I'm like, well, I don't have tickets, but I'll go down there and hang out, you know. So we all met over at Robin Trower. He's playing at the Stone, and we're in the alley drinking, and Cliff and those guys are smoking weed because I've always been more of a drinker back in the day. It wasn't until later on in life till I found that stuff. But back in the day, I was just drinking beer and hanging out with Cliff, and it was a few roadies and me and some of the guys from Hirax just hanging in the alley they're waiting to go see Robin Trower. We just hung out until they went in because we didn't have tickets. But I'll never forget partying in the alley next to the Stone with Cliff Burton and me and the rest of the guys in the band and drinking beer and just having a good ass time. Cliff was a really, really good guy. I mean, I know that he's a legend now and that he deserves it for sure, but he was always really cool even back in the early days.
Yeah, that is the coolest story. I mean, the idea of you and Metallica in an alley drinking beers, waiting to go see Robin Trower as a god. Like this is like, oh
and I
my,
can't believe I'm even remembering this, but that's a true story. And it's because I remember being at the Metallica house, that's what they call it now, up there in San Francisco, and me sitting on the carpet, like just watching TV after they practice. And I remember Kirk going, I got to make a phone call. And he's on the old school phone with the cord. And he's like, hey, it was a Stone. He called the Stone. He goes, listen, this is Kirk from Metallica. I would like to get in to see Robin Trower tonight. And he's like, can you put me on +1? And they said, yeah. And because they were pretty big back then, they'd sold out the Stone by themselves. So I could see how he was able to call the Stone and say, I want to come see Robin Trower. But I'm like, dude, you're going to see Robin Trower? That's the dude, you know? So, yeah, those are good memories. But, yeah, think about that now, like, because back then we were just young pups, man, you know? But, yeah, going to see Robin Trower.
oh, that's beautiful. That's amazing. That's incredible. That is incredible.
You know, it's funny. I don't think I've told that story very many times, maybe twice. This might be the second time. But
Oh, really?
a lot of those things are coming back to me now because because probably I don't know why, but that's why back to the book. I should write the freaking thing.
Have
I
to
mean,
do this.
there's insane stories. I mean, going to Paul Bailoff's house when he was living in a condemned building. There was no electricity. I mean, we were crazy. We were crazy thrash metal dudes. And but yeah, I should do the book. I mean, even myself, I keep telling myself because I know that some of these stories people would love to hear. You know,
Yeah.
crazy.
And you probably have a plethora of unpublished photos too that nobody's ever seen of
Yeah,
that
I got
era.
some pretty crazy stuff. And what's kind of cool over the years, people have actually given me stuff that they knew either I didn't have anymore. So it's kind of nice that it's like they're helping me fix the archives by some of these. Because a lot of times I sent out photos that I didn't have copies of because I was like, I'm sending out photos. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do when you're sending out a new cassette tape or a new album. You'd send a promo photo, or I'd also throw in shots that we just took that we had plenty of extras for. But a lot of those I didn't keep either masters or I just gave out every single one of them.
Wow.
And so sometimes I'll go on tour and people go, you sent me this package decades ago, and they'll show me photos or either I can get copies of them or it's amazing. So I have to thank the fans for actually helping me replace a lot of my history.
That's cool. That's cool. And one thing I love about, speaking of history too, is so I've purchased pretty much every single album from you directly on vinyl that's
That's awesome.
available because I love vinyl. But the thing that I really love is when you send those, you always send flyers, like old
Yeah, yeah.
flyers. My ceiling, I mean, I've got all the pictures behind me. My ceiling I have at least 20 old Hirax flyers covering my ceiling. And
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's an
great.
old school thing that I just wanted to keep alive. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some bands do it, but I just continue to do it because it's something we used to do in the 80s. And I think it's important. I don't know, man. I
Yeah.
think it, and I like it. You know, like if I got a package and there's some extra stuff in there, it almost like as you're pulling these things out, you're kind of getting history and you're
Yeah.
sitting and it's tangible. It's in your hands. So I really do think it's a good thing to do. And I try to here and there look, like sometimes people will send me flyers I've never seen. So then I will make some copies of those too and send them out because I'm like, these things need to be seen. Like somebody a while back gave me a old Megadeth and Hirax and Dark Angel flyer, and I had never actually seen it before.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, can you imagine how many other people never seen it? And I'm in the band and I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But it's a really amazing piece of history because it even says this is when Dave was just he'd been kicked out of the band for a while and he started Megadeth. So it says featuring former ex Metallica guitarist. So even to see that on there is just crazy. And then it's like Hyrax, Law's Rocket, and Dark Angel, which
Yeah.
that's just a crazy bill from 1985.
Yeah. I have that one right there.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's
Yeah.
the
But dude,
Metal Madness Megadeth is
yeah, that took so many decades for me to even find, and I didn't even know that that'd been put out. And I'm like, why didn't I even know of this flyer? You know?
and what's insane is when you look at the flyer and it says $3 cover charge. Like $3 to see
Yeah,
Megadeth, Hyrax, Dark Angel. Like
yeah, it's nuts.
that's insanity. I mean, now that bill would be
Yeah, it'd be
at
ridiculous.
least $50. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
that's incredible. That's beautiful. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, it's funny, let me tell you how I got the flyer was that Dave Mustaine, his roadie, who now he's older, but he went digging through his flyer collection. He goes, Katon, here, check this out. Have you ever seen it? I go, dude, I've never seen that flyer before. And he goes, oh, here's one. He had some extras and he gave me one of the originals. But what's great about it is he was there from the early days of Megadeth, and he's the guy that the song Rattlehead was written about. He's Rattlehead.
really?
Yeah. So that flyer was given to me from the original Megadeth roadie Rattlehead.
That is cool. I didn't know. Oh, that's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
nuts.
you have to write this book. Like this, you have to do this. Like,
Get off my ass. You know, I think I should do like I usually listen to my wife because you cannot listen to you. But I think I should do 15 to like a half hour a day and just write down stories because there's, you know, and then you can arrange them because you're not always going to remember them in, you know, the order that they happened.
yeah.
But like even when I do these interviews, this reminds me of that kind of stuff. Like I probably need to go back through this interview and watch it myself and make notes from it, you know?
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think
Thanks for helping me with the book.
yeah, I'm anytime. I'm happy to help. Yeah, that for sure. I mean, I think that's the thing. You're so crucially important to American music. Like truly. I mean, you like for me, you're like a god. I mean, really. I mean, you changed the way I think about music. I mean, as a young kid, you know, 40
Thanks,
years
man.
ago. I mean, really, like just like Hyrax was so different than anything I'd ever heard. And just so impactful. And it still sounds like I listen to Raging Violence all the time, and it still sounds fresh and new to me as it did in 1984, 85, 85.
You know what's good is I get humbled all the time, so it's great. You know, like that's what's kind of cool about this. Like I'll run into other musicians that tell me stuff like this, and I'm like, dude, you just make it. It also inspires me too, though. Like it's humbling but inspiring.
Yeah.
So like the drummer from Deicide, he said when he was 16, he got into that record. I'm like, dude, if bands like Deicide are being influenced by this shit, that's great. You know, like to me,
Yeah.
I always thought if you can shake up things in a good way, a positive way, that's cool. So like even with bands like Napalm Death or Chuck Schuldiner from Death, any of these guys that had some kind of inspiration or influence by our music, to me, that's right there. I don't need to be a rich man. I just feel like I've been totally fulfilled. That these guys that have gone on to do pretty great things themselves, it's makes me so grateful and humble, and it's awesome. I'm beside myself to be able to do this, but it's also something that I grew up on. You know, I live and eat this shit like seriously, like every day I do something musically, you know, to kind of make things a positive impact on people. I try.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your because I'm a vinyl junkie and I love your posts. Like when you go to the record store, like, oh man, I just it's I always get excited when you post like I went to the record store today, like, oh, what did he find? Because I
It's
mean you're in
awesome.
LA, so you find cool shit. Like,
It's pretty crazy, man. And also, I'm a digger, so I don't mind. Like, but I have to make time. Like, if you got an hour or two, Yeah, you can make some shit happen. And it's a lot of times too, people don't realize you just gotta look in places that aren't so obvious. Cause like normally when I go to, I'll give you a tip that I do. When I go to a record store, wherever everybody's at, I'll go to the opposite side. So if I
Mm,
see a lot of people over there, I'll go to the side that doesn't have all that action going on. And usually you get more time to dig through shit. Cause
yeah,
usually when you buy a lot of people, you're kind of in a hurry because you see other people digging, you're like, I gotta hurry. But it's better to kind of slow down and look at these records because you might be like, I never seen this cover before.
yeah,
Because a lot of these bands, like even AC/DC, like their early records, they have different covers.
yeah.
So like there's two different Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap covers. There's two different Let There Be Rock covers. You know, even Highway to Hell, a lot of people don't know there's a European different cover of that version.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did not know that.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, slow down, take your time, but make sure you have time when you're doing the record stuff because sometimes you might even just thumb over something that you didn't realize it was a really cool record because the cover's different.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. Um, well, I don't want to keep you all night. Thank you so very much, Katon. This has been an honor, truly an honor chatting with you, and an absolute pleasure. For those of you watching, um, especially if you're in Europe, in Germany,
Yeah.
tour is coming in a couple
August,
months.
yeah, August 1st, we start the European tour, 3 weeks. We're going through a lot of places: the Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, France, trying not to, the Holland, Belgium. So it should be a pretty extensive tour, but
Oh, right on.
we'll be back. And then we're going to do the States. We're going to do New York with Sodom. We're going to do San Francisco with Sodom.
Wow.
Uh, Stuff coming up for Texas. And there's a lot of cool things coming. If I can tell you before I go,
Yeah, please.
uh, the people that are into what we do, there's going to be some really great things coming, stuff that shows that we really do appreciate the fans. We're trying to give back as well. You know, I mean, they've given us a lot over the years too. So it's kind of it's just like this interview. It's mutual, dude. For me, it's an honor. I'm grateful for your time, and I appreciate you supporting this, man. That's what I mean. You're really a throwback to the '80s yourself because this is how we did it. Like
Yeah.
it took people like you to help me to get our music out to other people, and you're doing something that's very special. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so, yeah, for those of you watching, I'll have links in the description below. Go buy this today for sure. And
It'll,
then the new album pre-order, well, once that's available, well, pre-order
yeah,
the
the EP.
EP. That's
Yeah,
available now for pre-order. And then also like the whole, back catalog, especially the vinyl.
yeah,
If you're a vinyl collector, you have to get the reproduced raging violence and phantasm. We didn't even talk about phantasm, but
yeah. That's another. You know, we'll definitely come back. I think what we should do is we'll revisit when the new record comes out. I mean, that
oh,
would be probably a great way to do it. And it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate your time as well. And just keep doing what you're doing, man.
thanks, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you.